If you are somebody who struggles with overeating or binging, or you feel like you're constantly swinging from restricting to binging or dieting to overeating, then this video is perfect for you. And for those who do not know me, hi, I am Michaela. I am a qualified nutritionist, a binge eating specialist, and have helped over 800 incredible women to completely stop binge eating and transform their relationship with food. Today's topic, we're going to dive into the all or nothing mindset and how to actually start to overcome this so you can start to take back that control over food and to transform your relationship with both food and your body. Without further ado, let's just absolutely dive into the video. This all or nothing thinking that can play out when you feel like once you start eating, you can't stop eating is what we're going to really unpack. And it's kind of like a pendulum swing. You feel like you're either all the way on one side and you're ticking all the boxes, you're doing everything right, but then one thing slips and the pendulum just swings all the way to the other side and you feel like you can't stop. For a lot of you, this will be around certain foods that you've told yourself maybe you can't have. If we take chocolate as a great example, maybe you've told yourself, well, I can't control myself around chocolate. So if we just keep it out of the house, then I don't ever have to worry about it. However, for a lot of people, that chocolate ends up around you somehow and you haven't learned any control over it whatsoever. So you feel like once you have a little bit, it just snowballs from there and you feel like you can't stop. So I'm going to explain to you why this does play out and how you can actually start to challenge yourself to learn how to take back that control back over the food. The first thing that I want to address is the fact that this is actually not a willpower problem at all. And it's most definitely not a you problem. This is one of the things that I hear a lot because I speak to women every single day who are currently struggling with this. And they say, if only I just had more willpower, I would be totally fine. But the reality is that it's not actually a willpower problem. When you think about every other area of your life, you probably show up to work on time. You probably do all of these other things that maybe you don't want to do, but you know it has to be done. I don't know, take the laundry and the washing for an example. It is not a willpower problem and it is not a you problem. Unfortunately, we live in this world and society where diet culture is shoved down our throats every single day. And I'm probably going to absolutely butcher this saying or this analogy that I use, but this is how I think about diet culture. Is if you imagine two fish are swimming, one is old and one is young, and the old one goes, wow, the water feels so cool today. The young one says, what is water? That is essentially what diet culture is like. You have lived in this bubble and in this world of diet culture. It's not new. It's been around since you were born. So until you actually learn how to take a step out of that, you don't even understand that this is what is happening. These are the messages that you're getting. Like, you don't know what diet culture is because you're so in it. And it's not until you actually remove yourself and you can see it from that outsider's perspective to be like, oh my goodness, this is not a you problem. This is not a willpower problem. You weren't born like this either. This is learnt behaviors. And for a lot of people, it is learnt from diet, society, maybe if we even go all the way back to your childhood. How did you grow up around food? What was your parents' relationship like with food? So this thinking that it's just a simple fix of having more willpower or some people are more disciplined than you, it is not true in any way, shape or form. If this journey was as easy as flicking a light switch, my goodness, I wish it was. Like, we wouldn't be here. The journey it would not exist. Just had to quickly move myself up. But I want to, if you are feeling it like you're, okay, do I struggle with this? Am I in the all or nothing mindset? I want to ask you if any of these sound familiar. Things like, oh, I'm being so good this week. Do you ever say that to somebody? Or if somebody presents you with a cookie or a cake or some chocolate, you say, no thanks, I'm being really good this week. Just throwing that one out there. That constant cycle of I'll start again Monday. And maybe you feel like you can have that control over the food from Monday to Friday. But as soon as that weekend hits or Friday night hits or Saturday, it kind of feels like it's a blowout. It's that all or nothing. And then you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just restart again Monday. Or if it's that stuff it, I've already ruined it. So stuff it, let's just go all in. And then we can restart again tomorrow. Or as soon as you have a little bit, your brain clocks and goes, delicious, amazing, let's keep going. Or I may as well just finish it all now, eat it all now so it's out of the house and then I don't have to think about it. That could be another huge one. These aren't random thoughts. These are actually part of a pattern that we need to start to rewire and rewrite. These are neurological pathways. And as I said, these have been formed over years. And for a lot of people, because you've been living this way for so long, like it's just automatic that you're in this constant restart cycle Monday, or you're in this, it's just become so normalized that if you have a little bit and your brain feels like you've broken a rule or you've been quote unquote naughty or bad, so that inner rebellious side of you comes out and goes, well, we've already done this, so we may as well just keep going. You know, we've already been a little bit naughty, so let's just top it off. But you've been doing that for so long that you don't actually recognize or realize the impact that it's happening, or that it's probably just playing out subconsciously, or that it might be common, but it's not normal. And so this is why it is so incredibly important to rewrite these patterns and unlearn these habits that you have learned, because they are exhausting and they are quite detrimental to our health, both mentally and physically. We only get one shot at life. There is no coming back. There is no take two of this. So you want to make sure that you are not living every single day with food noise 24/7, with this on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, off a diet, with these huge weight fluctuations. It is taking up so much of your energy. So if any of these sound familiar, then what we're going to work through to actually start to rewrite these patterns is going to be absolutely transformational for you. So some of the subconscious food rules that could be playing out underneath the surface. And this is why if you've listened to any of my stuff before, you probably know that I explain this journey of healing your relationship with both food and your body a bit like an onion. And essentially what you do is the onion, you start to peel back those first few layers and you'll realize just how much is really truly underneath all of this. You want to keep going until you start to get to the true roots of all of this. A lot of time at the roots of this journey is a lot of these subconscious food rules that you have been living for years. And like I said earlier, for a lot of you, you might not know or understand that these are things that, whilst they might be common, they're not normal. Like you should not be telling yourself, I can't have carbs at night. I must earn my treats. Like I can only have a croissant if I've gone for a run. Weekdays are strict, weekends are off, in the sense of maybe you label foods as good and bad, or you eat clean from Monday to Friday, you have cheat days, or the weekends are the only days that you allow yourself to have certain foods. One of the biggest rules that I had when I was going through my journey was chocolate was only ever allowed as a dessert at the end of the day. Oh my goodness, I could never touch chocolate during the day. These are just all rules that we have made up. Like now I have chocolate whenever I feel like it. Today is already ruined. If I start, I can't stop. Like that weather reporting mentality of, well, if I have that food in the house, I am going to eat it all. But the reason why there's that weather reporting there is because that's the evidence that your brain has. Because somewhere along the line of your life, that food had been demonized and then it had been restricted. And our brain hates negatives. It cannot process negatives very well. If I told you to not think about a purple spotted elephant, your brain is like, oh, you're trying so hard not to think about it. Our brain doesn't do well. So as soon as you tell it no, it wants that thing even more. So now that you've demonized the food, you've restricted the food, it's got a novelty effect. You've put the food actually up on this pedestal, and it's kind of like that forbidden fruit. And so once you allow yourself to have some, your body clocks and goes, great, let's keep going. You know, that felt so good. I just realized I was accidentally covering one of those, which was the weekdays are strict and the weekends are off. So these could be playing out on a subconscious level for you. So I want you to just take a moment to sit down and actually just process and think, okay, do I have any subconscious food rules? And the best way to think about this is, if you were to break a rule, would you feel anxious? Like, are there any situations in your life where you're presented with food, social events, where you actually feel a bit anxious around the food? That's a great one to know that there's a food rule there. The other one is, if anybody was to rock up with food, spontaneous food adventures, anything like that, does it trigger a sense of anxiety, fear, overwhelm, discomfort? That is another great sign that there are subconscious food rules. So I just want you to take a moment now to just write out and see if you have any fear foods or food rules, subconscious food rules that are actually playing out. Some of you might be aware of this restrict binge cycle. Some of you might not be aware of it. So I'm going to walk you through it regardless. So essentially what happens is you restrict and you cut something out. Let's say you've started a new diet, clean eating, you've decided that you're going to go off sugar, you're going to start keto, intermittent fasting, whatever it is. There's so many things out there. I mean, they're all the same, right? They're all masked a little bit differently, but underneath they're just heavy forms of restriction. So you cut the thing out, you're like, great. You have that, you know, when you start that diet, you've got that spark of motivation. You're like, this is it. This is the one that's going to transform my life. So you start it, you're doing really well, but then you start to get fatigued and tired from it. You start to crave the food you've told yourself you can't have. The food noise becomes so incredibly obsessive. And you go, I'll just have a little bit. So you have a little bit, but that little bit then turns into stuff it, that was so good, I need to keep going. The other thing is when your body's eating a restricted or a forbidden food, it actually gives you a dopamine hit. So you're like, great, that felt so good. So you go it again and again, and that triggers a binge. From that binge, you obviously have that guilt and that shame. You feel frustrated, angry, you feel lost. So you get on TikTok, you get on social media, and then you're spammed with you just need to track calories harder, you got to track your macros, you got to do keto, something so incredibly extreme. It's like, just be stricter with yourself so that you restrict even harder, and that cycle starts all over again. For a lot of you, this is the cycle that you will have actually been stuck in for years. It is one of the most exhausting and depleting cycles. It starts to bleed into every other area of your life, relationships, friendships, career, everything, because it actually starts to consume about 95% of your days. Because you're thinking, do I have this? Do I not have that? Is that right? Is that wrong? Am I on? Am I off? I want that, but I can't have that. Like it becomes so incredibly obsessive. This cycle is not how we are supposed to be living our life at all. So I want to highlight the fact that you're not binge eating because you love food too much. I am such a foodie through and through. And for so long, I was like, but I just love chocolate, But that's actually not the reason the binge eating is happening. You're binge eating because your brain thinks that the food won't be there later. You have created so much restriction, even if it's on that subconscious level. You've been living by so many rules that you have placed all these foods up on these pedestals. Your brain no longer trusts you that that food is actually always going to be readily available. So it thinks when it gets that food, it has to have its last supper on it. It has to eat as much as it can because it is so scared that it's actually going to restrict you again, that you're going to restrict it again. One of my favorite analogies to describe this is if you were to imagine a cow in a fenced off paddock, and in that fenced off paddock, the grass is dead, the cow shits where it eats, like the cow is just not loving life at all. The cow in this little fenced off area can actually see all the way around it. It's just this green, luscious grass, but it can't access any of it at all. One day, the farmer comes along and the farmer opens up the gates and the cow gets to leave its dead grass patch and it's in this luscious green grass. The cow starts going to town and it is eating and eating and eating and eating because it is so scared that that farmer is going to come and lock it back up in this fenced off area, that it's not going to have access to that green grass anymore. But over time, the cow learns that the farmer's not coming back to lock it up, that it actually now has to live its rest of its life in this green, luscious grass field. So it slows down. It's like, I don't need to, keep eating all of these foods. That is essentially what happens when we start to bring these foods down off the pedestal. But at the moment, it's like you're in this fenced off area and you've told yourself you can't have all of these foods, that they're bad, that these ones are good, that these are better, whatever it is. But you also can see and have access to all the foods that you're restricting yourself from. And so over time it compounds, that urge, that craving builds bigger and bigger and bigger, and cravings and urges, they do not go away. It's like somebody and not like tapping you on the shoulder and then they quiet and you're like, oh, okay, that's good. Maybe you tried to satisfy your chocolate craving with a protein bar and you're like, oh, that worked, that's good. Next minute comes back, pots and pans. Not only are you now just craving one chocolate bar, but you're craving the entire block of chocolate. And so this isn't because you love food too much, it's actually because you've created this scarcity and you have lost trust in yourself. Now, a lot of the time I have so many people like, it's okay, I'm just going to count my calories, that's going to be okay. Calorie counting will make it worse. Going on another diet will make it worse. Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing, yet expecting a different result. If nothing changes, nothing changes. In the sense of if you keep just trying another diet to heal your relationship with food and take back control over the food, it's never going to work because you're just doing the same thing. It's just masked a little bit differently. If you want to actually take back that control, this is where you have to stop restricting all of the foods. You have to stop creating more obsession around the foods. You want the food to feel safe. You want to remove that last supper mentality. You want to actually relearn how to work with your body, not against it. How to rebuild that trust with yourself. That going back to that willpower, you cannot fight your brain forever. And so that motivation that you have when you first start a diet, that's what keeps you going for a little bit of time. But the real change is actually going to happen when that food stops feeling like it's forbidden, stops feeling like it's up on this pedestal. You end up being back in control over that food rather than feeling like that food is controlling you. The 3 things that you can actually start to do today to challenge this. The first one is to catch the rule. So earlier before, when you wrote down all of the subconscious rules that you were playing out, now I want you to be actively aware of those throughout the week. So I want you to start to notice when you tell yourself, I can't have that, I already messed up, I'm trying to be good, I'm restarting again today, that you've cut out chocolate, whatever it is. I want you to catch the rule, write it down. Now that we are aware of it, we now want to change the logic around it. So this is where now you're going to reframe what you're saying to yourself. Would you actually say that to a friend? If you have kids, would you say that to your kids or your daughters? You know, if you had a friend that said, oh, I'm trying to be so good to her, I'm not allowed any chocolate cake, or I've already messed up, so I'm just gonna, I know I had one slice of chocolate cake, but I was trying to be so good and now I'm bad and I messed up, so I'm going to eat the rest of the chocolate cake. Would you say, like, would you tell a friend to do that? Probably not. If you then sat there in the guilt, the shame, the frustration, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, would you say that to a friend? Start to change the way that you talk to yourself. And what I was talking about earlier of that weather reporting, when you say, I know that I'm just going to eat it all when it's in the house. Of course, whatever the mind believes, the body achieves. So if you keep telling yourself that that is exactly what's going to play out, that is exactly what is going to play out. So you want to start to reframe the way that your brain is actually talking to yourself. So catch the rule, flip the language around it. But then when it comes to these type of journeys, actions speak louder than words every single day. You can tell yourself 1,000 times, I'm not going to overeat that food. I'm not going to overeat that food. But until you can actually build hardcore physical evidence to prove to yourself that that's true, it's really, really difficult for our brains to trust us because you've lost so much trust over the years, right? So this is where you want to actually start challenging it. Like if we go back to that cow analogy, the cow, of course, ate more than what it wanted to originally when it was in the green, luscious grass. But then as it learned that the grass was always available, it slowed down. Didn't feel the need to keep eating it. So I want you to think about one of the rules that you have. And let's say you've decided that you're going to cut out sugar. And now you want to challenge that. So, and let's say, I don't know, chocolate is one of the things that you love the most. I want you to think about how can you eat this food regularly? Every single day for the next little while. Maybe you want to start with fun-sized chocolates and then you move to having a block of chocolate and just breaking off some pieces. But I never want you to have the food isolated. I want you to think, okay, could I have it as part of lunch dessert, my afternoon snack, my dinner dessert? How can I incorporate it into the day? And how can I do this every single day for the next weeks, months, however long it takes your brain to recognize and realize nothing bad comes from having this food. This food can actually always be available to you. You do not have to overeat on it. You do not have to be in this restrict and overeat cycle at all. It can actually always be there for you. You get to have that control over the food. The food does not have to control you. It does not have to be up on this pedestal. It does not have to be a forbidden food. And you just do that with every single food rule that you have, and you just challenge it and you knock them down off the pedestal one at a time. But the thing is that it can take anywhere from 20 to 260 days for a new habit to form. You have to remember that you have probably been thinking and living around food for so long, years maybe. So this isn't going to just change overnight. It is not sexy. It is very repetitive work, but that is the way that you are actually going to get sustainable long-term results. I would honestly love to know what food rules you are going to be challenging this week. So make sure you pop them in the comments down below. And if you ever want any extra support or you just want more tips and tricks and resources to be able to help you to stop this cycle, take back that control over the food, then make sure you go and follow us on our Instagram, undiet.co. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video if you want more information around healing your relationship with food. Enjoy the rest of the day or the night whenever you're watching this video. Bye.